break of dawn to late night and get the truth straight from ADSN.
So James, we just got talking about possible and kind of the excitement coming out of that conference. And so we wanted to bring on a special guest who was there on the ground, involved in some of the preparation and some of the events there. Andrew, welcome to ADSN. Let's get right into it. Like, you were there. What's going on with Possible?
How's it going, guys? Great to be here on ADSN. Loving the format. Possible, I have to say, this is the second year that we were going, and the conference continues to impress me significantly. I think MMA and organizers have done such an incredible job with the conference. It's growing like wildfire, and I think next year, by all accounts, it seems to be even bigger. So for those folks in ads, peripherally or directly, this is the place to be for sure. Definitely recommend folks coming out next year. Lock your tickets in early. I think it's it tends to sell out. But this year,
are you getting a rev share?
I'm not
on this?
I'm not getting. I wish that I were. I have a lot of friends that had invested in the conference, and they all have been really happy with that. So, but
let us know when your affiliate code is available.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a new business line for us, promoting conferences. But in all truth, it's just such a great place to have everyone from the ads industry come together. And so I think, the more folks that head out there, especially brands, as most of these conferences tend to go, the brand contingency is not always there, but there were definitely a bunch of brands there this time, and I would definitely encourage marketers to come next year just to get a flavor of all the innovation that's happening in the space. Growth by Science, the company that I started, we were there. We were a sponsor this year, co-sponsor with Imperium for a brand challenge competition, kind of like a startup competition, which was really exciting. One of our clients, Acorns, was there seeking, kind of some innovative MarTech folks to help them with challenges in the CTV space, challenges with marketing deployment, with creative automation. And they got a couple of really fantastic entries that they ended up, the format was you started with 15 startups, and we assessed their pitches and offerings. And in the end, it was down to two, TV Scientific and Clinch. And both impressed Acorns so much that Acorns can end up working with both of those two brands, which is pretty exciting. So it was an awesome format, and just a plug for that. Next year, we're likely going to be doing something similar, and so we'd love to see that part of the conference definitely more populated next year if we can invite more folks to it. But overall, again, an incredible conference, lots of really interesting topics being discussed, and I'm sure we'll get into what those are.
Yeah, what was like the big theme, if you were going to just describe it in a couple words of maybe for that startup pitch and just kind of like in general of the conference itself?
Yeah, I think I would say in general for the conference, which definitely also manifested within the startup competition, it was all about automation, specifically AI, helping with marketing automation, marketing optimization. And I mean, I think AI is something that's mentioned just about every podcast, every newsletter, every conference. It's top of mind. Definitely seeing a huge focus on it on all sides of it. But beyond that, there's also this idea of just new ad platforms and new commerce media networks cropping up. A lot of really interesting new ad services for brands to explore. So I think the interesting thing is as this trend sort of continues, how are brands going to be able to work across all of these brand new surfaces and pick and choose across them? And our thesis, of course, being a measurement company, measurement consultancy, is that measurement will drive that selection process, and certainly we're seeing that trend as well. A huge focus on measurement, which is kind of the third theme that we've seen at Possible and really within the industry at large as well. Particularly moving into advanced kind of measurement approaches beyond some of the traditional last click, post click, which doesn't even apply to a lot of the new ad platforms that are out there, particularly in the connected TV and influencer and creator content spaces. You just don't have the the post-click, post-view type attribution that works anymore. So it's really exciting to see that shift in industry continue to gain momentum to these advanced measurement solutions.
And what are those like from a just like for everyone who listens to this podcast probably like kind of knows about incrementality, like they know the measurement sort of landscape a bit, but like where's this going? Like what are like really cool things that people are just starting to think about that like the average person in ads kind of doesn't even consider?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there's the continued momentum behind incrementality, which you mentioned. A lot of great new tools, estimating incrementality, directly measuring it with geotests and automation around that. That whole segment is growing, as is the econometric modeling. So MMM space continues to grow. I mean, there are literally dozens of companies that are now doing some combination of incrementality and MMM. And so there's a lot of choice out there that, those paid SaaS solutions, but also a lot of great, open source solutions. And then of course, consultancies like ours, where, we build those solutions out in a bespoke fashion for our advertising clients. So there's just so much more choice now than there was a few years ago. I think I made a post about this either on LinkedIn or something, but I really don't think that there's an excuse to not have good measurement in this day and age. There's just so much optionality for advertisers out there, and really the challenge is not trying to find help, code, software companies, consultancies to help get this on, but it's really navigating the sort of landscape that exists right now. So those, I would say, that's the biggest challenge for advertisers right now.
And it's interesting, kind of going back to what you were saying at Possible, where one of the themes was kind of AI and automation, and then creative AI, and obviously, measuring the efficacy of those. And so, like, how are you at Growth by Science approaching that with clients to help them understand, like, what is the right approach for creative AI? What is the right approach to bringing AI into the operation and their processes, and embedding that as part of kind of their structure?
Yeah, great question. I think I divided this into two chunks. So AI, as it relates to automation, a workflow type thing, I think is a no-brainer. If it's easy to deploy and you can be confident in the results, that it's simplifying, it's making people's jobs easier, getting campaigns deployed faster. It's just something that should be leaned in. Where I have, I would say, a bit more, maybe not a bit more, a lot more trepidation is this kind of AI based campaigns. So everyone, I think, has read at this point Mark Zuckerberg's treatise on the future of advertising. Give us an outcome, a budget, and we'll do the rest. That is something that I would approach extremely cautiously at this point, just because one thing I've always said is most ad platforms are in the business of optimizing their own revenue, not advertiser outcomes. Right? That's a secondary objective for them. And so the onus is really on the advertiser to measure their ad campaigns in an effective way, an appropriate way. And so that's where, we would strongly encourage some significant testing to be done on any kind of AI-based, external facing marketing campaigns. There's already a few of those out there right now. You've had PMAX and ASC for a while, which are kind of the first iteration of that. But obviously, those have grown, and other there are other options right now, both third party and within the platforms. But all of that needs to be tested very rigorously with causal methods. Something at Growth by Science that we employ a lot. There's a lot of ways that you can understand the causality of these types of campaigns, either through direct geotesting or different types of modeling that we can do, depending on the situation.
How far away are we from like the AI driven like synthetic data for measurement? Like, I can just predict out what these campaigns really do with kind of like no like seed data. Like, is that like just pie in the sky, like not happening anytime soon kind of thing?
I would say, yeah. I think it's pretty far away. Like, if you think about what are all the components that you need to put together to have something like that. First of all, you need a super robust, clean truth set of incrementality, right? Arguably, Meta has or would have the capability to have something like that. But at scale, I think we're still far away from that. There may be some platforms that can start to get closer to that reality than versus others, but as a general, kind of offering, cross-platform offering, I think we're still pretty far from that.
And you did say something that was interesting, that, there's a lot of optionality. And when we talk about measurement, when we talk about creative, certainly AI, there's a lot of optionality in software solutions and companies. And so how are you guiding like your clients to evaluate those options and really kind of separate the BS from something that actually may drive outcomes for a company, and kind of navigate that optionality, or as others might look at it, as like complexity, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've said this before, but I still continue. I still believe it to be true. The differentiation that exists with measurement SaaS right now, I don't believe has generally to do with methodology. If a SaaS company is offering MMM and incrementality, there's only a few ways that that those methodologies can manifest and can be implemented, and so I wouldn't necessarily pick a company based on the methodology. A couple of nuances aside, really what advertisers should be looking for are ease of implementation, flexibility and customization, and general automation. Right? If a SaaS company is lacking on those regards, and by the way, this is not to say that any objectively lack on those regards, but depending on the needs of a client, one solution may be better suited to another, then really, it's almost better to take an off the shelf open source code, adapt it, and kind of build your own homegrown system. And that's really what our focus has been. As an alternative to the SaaS solutions, is we help construct these really bespoke, in-house, super tailored models. A lot of times, an MMM will only get you so far. You'll need to do some subsequent modeling for something like a time delayed conversion, say, that happens with some distribution after an initial sign up event. It's a situation we come across with a lot of our clients, and that requires another layer of modeling. And some SaaS solutions have some approaches that can solve that, but we find it's just easier, frankly, to take some of the components that are already really good, some of the open source components. We layer on some of our knowledge and expertise on top of that and build something really custom. And I always liken it to, you can get a suit off the rack, which, if you have standard dimensions, standard measures, that's great. You can look really sharp in an off the rack suit. But if you've got broader shoulders, or maybe carrying a little extra around the middle or something like that, this is where you come to a Growth by Science, and we'll build something bespoke, tailor that suit, and make anybody look as sharp as possible.
Incredible analogy, really, really vivid.
It
The
does not come from personal experience shopping for suits. Or maybe it does. I don't know.
Does it is interesting. You mentioned, like, the other theme, possible, was just all these new ad networks and ad platforms coming up. Do you get a sense like they know how? Are they at the phase yet where they really know measurement is super important, or is it right now like, let's make it easy to buy, like, kind of experimental budgets? Like, what was sort of the feel when you were like walking around Possible on that?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I'm going to be as candid as I can. First of all, a couple of things. I am super excited that ads are having this kind of moment, and a lot of companies are seeing the power that ads can bring as a revenue line, as an offering to the commercial partnerships that they have with retailers, OEMs, things like that. But ads are hard, and you guys know this as well as I do. Building an ads platform is very, very, very hard. There's a lot of nuance to it, and I think there's a sort of asymmetry between the demand for talent in ads to build these platforms and the supply of said talent, which is concentrated with the big ad platforms, and a few other places. And so when you have that asymmetry, I think you've got a lot of platforms with big ambitions, and frankly, are struggling with the roadmaps on how to get there, not just in measurement, although certainly within measurement, but I would say beyond measurement and some of the basics as well. And this is a, I would say, a general theme that I've observed in working with a number of such folks. And at GBS, we also do work with some sell side brands as well, and help them build out their measurement stacks, in particular, more generally with ad tech, sort of consulting and ad tech advisory work. And certainly, I would say within the spectrum of things that require attention to build up an ads platform, measurement, I think, is getting the right attention, but it's people know, and the platforms know where they want to get to. Had a lot of great requests for, hey, can you help us build out incrementality? Can we offer that out? And I think it's awesome that the platforms are already thinking that. The trouble is, a lift or incrementality product is sort of the tip of the iceberg, and there's this whole infrastructure that needs to exist underneath that to be able to get you to that spot. Not to mention there's strategic sort of considerations. Do advertisers really want to trust multiple third party from their perspective, or multiple platform grown lift products? Do they want something more cross platform? And then more importantly, how do you leverage those insights that you're going to generate to create the right go-to-market plans that are verticalized? So from an ad platform perspective, and my experience working with you guys at Snap, you guys know, it was from the platform side, and a couple other places where I worked as well. It's measurement is sort of pervasive across the entire strategic, it's the entire strategy of an ads platform, right? What's working? Why is it working? What's not working? Why isn't it working? How do the different advertisers want to assess their investment on the platform? What partnerships need to be spun up? What's the infrastructure that supports all those partnerships? And then, ultimately, how do I differentiate myself as an ad platform relative to everything else that's out there? And so all of those questions, they do have measurement at the core, but it's super multifaceted and a very challenging thing to navigate.
Yeah, I mean, super interesting. And as most, I think, viewers and listeners know about ADSN, we love a good crystal ball. And so we're going to hand the crystal ball to you. And as we fast forward to possible 2026, knowing everything that you just said about these nascent ad platforms, retail media networks, AI, the pervasiveness of measurement and the interest of measurement, what does possible 2026 look like?
Ooh.
What is your involvement in it, right? And I think you teased a little bit of that. And is this the new can? I think that's the big prediction we want to know. Is this a stateside can?
Oh, I like that. I think I can go ahead and maybe it's a little early to call it, but I'm going to call it. I do think it's a stateside can. I think that was the ambition. At least the sense that I got is that was the ambition of the conference. They've even got a little yacht kind of situation over there, and it's on the beach. It's very reminiscent of Cannes for sure, but with the convenience for stateside advertisers to not have to travel, make the huge sacrifice to travel to the south of France. I know it's such a burden for a lot of folks to get out there and hang out in that set and all that. But I think it's great. Not all brands can afford to go to Cannes, especially some of the smaller startups are doing really innovative things. And so I think this is a good opportunity. And marketers should view it as such too, to kind of get ahead, before somebody's got a ton of VC money and they're at Cannes and trying to get the big fish. Is a good time to get ahead of that and maybe get introduced to some really innovative, forward-leaning startups. And so I would look at it that way. So I definitely like, and I mean, even the event that we co-sponsored with Imperium is very startup kind of oriented, startup heavy. And so I like that there's that focus within Possible, and so that's a good thing for brands to consider. In terms of next year, I do think measurement's going to have an even bigger presence there. I just see so much groundswell behind it. I think we're finally reaching this inflection point where the norm is starting to become advanced measurement. I mean, we're not quite there yet, but I definitely think that the tides have shifted in the last 12 months to push that in the forefront. And you can, evidence of that is just the volume of measurement startups, as I mentioned before, that have cropped up and all that. So I think that'll be at the forefront, and I imagine we'll see some consolidation and maybe some convergence, some deeper convergence on the AI side and the ad platform side. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's some kind of more integrative solutions next year that are looking, kind of end to end across the entire marketing martech stack, how AI can kind of play through all of that. And we might have some interesting things to be talking about. I won't mention too much of that, but we're working on some cool things in the measurement space, and in sort of the audiences space as well. And so at Growth by Science, we're going to be excited to hopefully be talking about that soon, but certainly next year if possible, for sure.
Ooh, so cryptic. All right. Well, we got to have you back on ADSN to give us an explanation of what that means. Maybe we'll put this into like an LLM and see what it predicts Covato's talking about.
I like it.
But all right, man. Well, thank you for coming on. It's a pleasure as always. And everyone go check out Growth by Science. They're doing amazing work. So thanks, bud.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me. Talk to y'all soon.
From the break of dawn to late night and get the truth straight from ADSN.